Good evening, and if you're just tuning in, you are listening to UFO Paranormal and United Public Radio Network, as we like to just call it UPRN, on 105.3 out of Mississippi and 107.7, both on FM, out of New Orleans. And this is the Angel Rock. I'm your host, Lorilei Potvin. A little bit about myself. I see Kevin there. Hi, Z Sun Dragon. A little bit about myself. I'm a Canadian psychic medium, crystal Reiki energy healer, Akashic Records practitioner. I'm a spiritual teacher and mentor, and I'm a registered nurse, as well as a budding animal communicator. I'm well versed in near-death experiences, having studied them professionally and personally for over 40 years. And I had one as a toddler myself. And what else do I want to tell you? I'm well versed in the paranormal. I always say never went looking for it. It found us. We had an extreme haunting in my previous home. We've shared our story on the Travel Channel's Paranormal Survivor Season 4, Episode 9. Now, if you like what you see, please like, share, and subscribe. I should also say what you hear, because 80% of our listening audience, or our audience, sorry, globally is listening. So we'd love to have you come and join over in the comments over here. This network's been around for 25 plus years, and when we stream multiple shows 7 days a week. And when we're not streaming live, the archive server randomly picks shows over the last 25 plus years. There really is something for everybody here. I believe we're up to almost 40 hosts on this network, so I've heard. And we're always adding new hosts and new shows. So there really is something for everyone. And as I was starting to say, I kind of got off my groove here. I don't have a script. I just go off memory. If you want to join the comments, we'd love to have you join the comments. We've got a great group over here that is watching. And how you can do that, you can head over to UFO Paranormal and United Public Radio on Facebook or YouTube. I'm streaming to my own Facebook profile, which is public, Lorilei Potvin, and my YouTube channel, The Angel Rock with Lorilei Potvin. We're streaming to Canada's Most Haunted. Also, if you want to watch us on TV, we have our own TV channel for the network. And how you're going to find that is you're going to sign into your Roku account. Then you are going to go to the channel store, type in UFO space P as in paranormal. There's a drop down list. We're about the third or fourth one down, and you're looking for UFO space paranormal and United Public Radio. And many of the shows on this network do broadcast over on Roku, so you can watch us on there if you'd like. Also, I want to let you know both this show and my second show on Thursday nights that I co-host with my very good friend David Hansel. He's from North Carolina. He's a very gifted medium, angel channel, psychic. He does pretty well almost all the things that I do. That's the thing at the foot of the bed from 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday. So we'd love to have you join us over there. I think I remember. I always forget something usually, but I'm going to say hi to Kathy Hanley Little. She says, good evening, Lorilei and Nancy. So these guys already know our great guests that we're having on this evening. I don't have my glasses on, so hopefully I can see. So this is Nancy Thames, and she's a former Department of Defense employee and a lifelong contactee of interdimensional interterrestrial beings, and has emerged as a significant voice in the realm of alien disclosure and spiritual awakening. And I love all these topics, as you guys all know. Her journey, marked by the personal struggles, her own personal struggles, has transformed profoundly through her continuous extraterrestrial encounters. These experiences, initially suppressed, were eventually embraced as Nancy began to understand their purpose in her life and for humanity. She has come to the decisive conclusion: it is time for disclosure. And I wholeheartedly agree. And we're going to be chatting about all that tonight. So welcome, Nancy. So glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm proud to be here. This is amazing. We've had this scheduled for a long time, and well, we were finally here.
I'm booking into October. I got a few spots in August, but over the summer, like last summer, I left a lot. I love doing shows on my own because then we've got a great audience here. And Kevin, by the way, or Z Sun Dragon, also said hi, Nancy.
Hi, everyone.
But I like to do shows with just myself because we talk about what the audience wants to talk about, and it's lots of fun. So tell me a little about, so when did all this start for you because when we talked, you had connected with me. And
Yeah,
I have missing time. I have paranormal experiences. I have all kinds of stuff. So I'm super curious. So I'd love to hear how that.
sure. Absolutely. Well, I am a lifelong contactee with interdimensionals and extraterrestrials. And my first conscious memories start at around age 2 or 3 years old, somewhere in that neighborhood that I can reflect back on and recall.
Mhm.
And they were fun. You know, at that point in my life, the world around me had not influenced me. So it was fun. They made it fun. And
Mhm.
even if I was, not feeling so great or whatever, they have the ability that they can change the scenery around you. They can capture an image from your brain. So if my mother had read me a storybook and it was still fresh in my mind, they could pull an image from the storybook and
Mhm.
they would look like that. They didn't change themselves into it, but that's what I would visually see. So they've always done everything possible to make it as normal as possible. And everything was great and good until I got to about, say, junior high age. And
Okay.
it just, yeah.
Go ahead. I'm
Oh,
still
okay.
listening. I'm trying to share this on my profile. So I'm listening to you as I'm
Sure. Okay. So when I became that age, at this age, we start taking our sciences and all our biologies, and it gets more in depth. So, for example, the way that they would come and get me when I was younger is they would come into my room if I would be asleep, and then when I started getting a little scared or having anxiety because the world around me had influenced me. But the way that they had always done it was they would take they were holding something in their hand and they would run it from my head down to my toes
okay.
back up. It was like a scan. It was a vibrational scan, and it didn't touch my body, but my whole body would vibrate. And after a certain period of time, my body would start to float or lift off the bed. And as it would, I would come up more into a upright position, and I would be
Okay.
holding the hand of a female gray.
I can't wait to get into all this, Nancy. I was
Yeah.
just add that Kathy Henley Little said, I don't consider an alien abduction as an abduction, but a rescue from this insane world. And what I'm going to, I have so many questions because Joe Montaldo, I'm going to give him a huge shout out. It's actually going on my 5th-year anniversary on this network next month. And he runs, or he's a big part of starting ICAR, International Center for Alien Research. And
Awesome.
he's been doing a 20 plus year study on Rh negative blood, red hair, and green eyes.
Mhm.
And so he does have that on iCar. I think it's iCar.net. And I took a look at it, but a lot of people that are abductees or have had ET experiences have seem to have a large, significant population with those characteristics. Now, I've heard him say it in 2 different interviews. Now, I'm going to go with 70,000 years ago. He says at that point before then, there never existed red hair, green eyes, and Rh negative blood. So where did it come from? Now, the interesting thing with my experience, and I believe you wholeheartedly, you can remember back to that young age because I remember experiences back when I was young. Now, I don't have any of those characteristics I just mentioned, but my mother does. My mother has red hair, green eyes, and Rh negative blood. Now, she doesn't believe in any of this stuff, but
Right.
the reason I mention it is during our extreme paranormal experiences, I have missing time. Like I literally blinked, and as I opened my eyes, it was my partner, Dell, calling me saying, "Where are you?" It was only supposed to be gone 3 minutes. And I think an hour and a half had passed by. I was on a out miles away from where I was. My car was in the opposite direction. I was in front of this building I've never seen before. I was even surprised I got cell service where I was. And he kept saying, "Where are you?" I said, "I don't know. I have to call you back." He's going, "What do you mean you got to call me back?" And I really didn't know where I was. And I've lived in this city my entire life in Thunder Bay. We have every kind of paranormal thing that you can think of. I have videos of UFOs and all kinds of stuff. It is crazy here.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear your comments on that. Have you heard the Rh negative I know.
I've done a lot of research on that myself, and I do know all about it. My daughter-in-law, one of my daughter-in-laws passed away on Thanksgiving Day.
Oh,
She
I'm
was
so
very
sorry.
young. Yeah, she was 29. And my other daughter-in-law, they are both RH negative. Neither one has green eyes, though. They have, well, one of them did, well, neither one had red hair or green eyes. But anyway, they were RH negative, but their children were born A positive, which is what I am. I'm A positive. Everyone in
Their
my
blood type.
family and my children are A positive. And I've never considered myself an abductee. I am a contactee because throughout my life, this has been going on for 64 years nonstop. And, there's been certain points where they have revealed to me why this was happening to me. And when I was in my 30s is when I realized it was also happening to my two sons. And I witnessed their first contact when they were very, very young. And at the time, it was devastating. I was flipped out about it. And I was awake and witnessed it, but they put me in a sleep paralysis. So I had to lay there and watch the whole deal. And then when they got the children and walked out with them, either they blacked me out or I just fell asleep. And I'm sure they blacked me out because I didn't wake up again until the next morning. And then, of course, they were safe and fine in their bed. And when we went to breakfast, they didn't recollect any of it. Their memories didn't have any memory of it. But now that they're older, the oldest son has the same amount of experiences, the downloads, and they gifted us each, not at the same time, Kundalini awakenings to help us to open our subconscious up into our human consciousness, to help us to remember who we are, why we came to Earth, and what our purpose here is. So my children and myself, we now know through the visions that they've shown me, I was a interdimensional being before I was born as a human being. Mm-hmm. And so were my children. Now, I don't know exactly what our relationship was on we come from a mothership. I don't exactly know if they were my children there and followed me. I really don't know all of that, but I do know, and they know that. We often wonder what our relationship, and we talk about these things. There's so much I don't think we'll ever understand about all this. It's so, the world is going to be learning so many new things. And, I think, at first I thought, God, this is some of the things that I have learned is going to be devastating to some people, especially like the heavy Christians and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I think what they tell me is to be patient. And we're going through an evolutionary jump right now. Like we're going through an ascension and we're going through this big evolutionary leap. And we're going to reach bam, into higher consciousness and leave this 3D dimension that we're in. And so I think that evolution itself is going to help people to get through all this, because it is going to be major changes and major revelations of knowledge and a better understanding of our origins, a better understanding of who we are, our uniqueness, what it means to be a human being. And we're going to understand our connections with everything on the planet that we have forgotten because of being in this 3D programmed world. So, and we'll also remember our connections to the universe, because we are all connected and we are all one. Mm-hmm. And that means all living things on this planet. And it also means everything in the universe, and extraterrestrials and interdimensionals. We are all one. And whatever we do on this planet, not only does it affect us, it affects our world, our planet, ripples out into the universe and affects it. So that's why they are very concerned with our technology, how we use it. They don't want us to wipe ourselves out, but they don't want us to destroy our planet. They don't want us to destroy all living things on it and ripple into the universe, because you've heard that saying, as above, so below. It's true. whatever we do, it affects them. So
what I use as an analogy, because I resonate with everything you're saying. Kevin says, I thought I was in the wrong chat as nobody was here. Although I'm saying the same thing. I'm wondering, I've had weird things going on. Like Nancy, you couldn't find the link. And then somebody else that was sharing it couldn't find it. So hopefully they find us, you guys. So if you're listening, could you help us out? Could you share? I don't usually ask you that, so everybody knows we're live, because I know there's a lot of people that are in the audience that love this topic. So I don't know if it's my phone or what it is.
Well, I tried to find the link. Remember, I messaged you and said that I'm having a hard time finding the link to share. I was fumbling around and couldn't find it. And I used the other one you sent. So I'm hoping that people.
I use a couple different like I always have a couple, and this one needs to be updated. I'm wondering, because this is a phone I usually use, but like it's crazy what like today. So maybe after this I'm gonna have to update it and see. It's way behind in the operating system.
Well, mine's the same way.
Well,
this is our new one.
But what I was going to say is I totally resonate with what you were saying. And I use the analogy, and I believe what I collectively call spirit is they gave this to me to, you talk to people after they've had a near-death experience and they come back and they really get it. Like there is no difference between a grain of sand and ourselves, meaning of where we've come from and how connected we are. So it's kind of a little bit simplistic, but I think most people could understand it.
So it's not that hard to understand.
Well, what I was explaining though,
we already know all this.
But a lot of people don't, right? We've never been led to. So how I explain it is, say we took Play-Doh, right? Or that molding dough, air dry clay for people around the world, whatever it may be. And we take it, say that source, we have a big ball of it. I know you'll understand this, but for our listeners. And then I say, so source decides they're going to create a universe. So they take pieces of themselves, that air dry clay, and they fashion the universe and everybody in it, regardless of who you are, whether you're interdimensional, whether you're intergalactic, extraterrestrial, human being, whatever it may be, and including everything we see and we live in. So even though things may look different, we're all connected. We all came from the same air dry clay, right? And it's pretty easy to understand that for most people.
Yeah, we've just been programmed to forget these things, so now I think this is the big deal. We are waking up and we're understanding that a manipulation game we have been played because of our lower consciousness. But now that we're reaching higher consciousness, we're going to become aware of all this, and we'll understand that the old ways of these program ways no longer serve us. And we need new ways of living, new ways of thinking, because all of us want to be better human beings. All of us want to have peace and beauty and see wondrous things and have longer lives and have healthier lives. But all these things have been intentionally done to us to keep us dumbed down. They do it. Even, our food has toxins in it. Our air has chemtrails, chemicals, and toxins in it. Our water has toxins and chemicals in it. They have us using synthetic drugs because they make so much money off the pharmaceutical stuff. And what the interdimensionals explained to me, and we already know this, everything that we ever needed was placed here in plant form or whatever to, sustain us for the rest of our lives. But they've like blocked all that out and have all of us living off pharmaceuticals, making these elite people richer and richer and lining their pockets. And this is also a way that they control our population, because they cannot make money off of human beings that live long lives, or human beings that are healthy, and human beings that are intelligent. They want to keep control over us. So
I was having this conversation. Have you ever heard of Paul Anthony Wallace?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I love him. Yeah.
Okay, he's been on this show a few times, and I've never forgotten the one many of them, but the one conversation when he was talking about, you get a human being, and there was even a movie with John Travolta called Phenomenon that came out.
Yes, I saw that.
Right. So he says, you get a human being that could never play the piano, and they have a head injury, or they've been in a coma, and they wake up, and all of a sudden they can play music like masterpieces and what have you. He goes, where did that come from? So he said, hi, Ruth Kleber. Nice to see you here. She says, hey, Lorilei and Nancy in chat. So where I'm going with this is, and I couldn't disagree with him. And you got to go back to our origin story. If it totally resonated with me, and it'll take. We could end up talking about that for an hour, but there's so many questions I got for you. So if you people want to look up Anunnaki and origin of the human being. Anyways, he said, what if the first version of us, say Homo sapien 1.0, was too smart and didn't want to work for anybody else? He said, so what if they went back to the drawing boards, and I'm kind of simplifying it, and they just turned that switch off, so that switch is still within the brain, right? Yes. And then we get Homo sapien version 2, which is us, but that switch is still in there. So what if somebody had a head injury or went into a coma or something, and it jarred the switch back on? And it made perfect sense to me, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yeah. And it's just like, you know, when we come to Earth, the cosmic law, I don't know, really understand all this. And I don't pretend to know everything. Every day of my life, it's, you know, I'm learning new things. And
me too.
I think it's always going to be that way. You know, we'll never know everything, but it doesn't mean we're not going to keep trying. I think that's beautiful. But I just, there's so many wonderful things out there. And I just wish that people would start to look within and pull these. Our subconscious knows so much. And when we're born here, all that is erased. And it's like we're having to start from scratch, you know, as a human being. Anything prior, you know, if we had a prior life anywhere, it is erased. Because what they explained to me is that for whatever reason, we've made an agreements that we are here on free will. And if we already knew everything, there wouldn't be a purpose of being here on Earth, because this is a school. Yeah.
No, why come, right? So
it wouldn't be worth the trip.
Well, I agree with you with that. And
but lots of people remember things.
Oh yeah, lots of people remember. Mm-hmm. It's not it, but I think that we are an ever, eternal, supernatural energy source, being, soul, whatever you want to call it, right? And we're having different experiences when we choose to incarnate. And a lot of people, once they start to embrace this idea, they think the only place we are here is Earth.
This is a temporary vessel. This is just a temporary experience. We are multidimensional, and we can be anything once we leave this vessel, if our soul contracts or agreements are, met. So it's either we come back and try it again, or either we can make a decision and be whatever we want to be, a dolphin, a rock, or an extraterrestrial, or interdimensional. And it goes on and on and on. It never ends.
Exactly. What I wanted to ask you, because I've never had this confirmed, but I feel very strongly within my soul, if you will, that I have been Lyrian many times, many
Probably
times.
So. I mean, you wouldn't have that if that thought's in there. That your subconscious is telling you. But being human, because we're human, these memories are erased. We question our own minds trying to tell us things. And that's why they gave me the Kundalini awakening, is because I was doing that. But I came here to assist humanity and help humanity. So they gave me a head start by opening up my subconscious into my human consciousness.
So is that what you would call a Kundalini awakening? Because a lot of people listening, we have people listening from all over the world here. So some people might be turning this on and going, what the heck is that? So to you, what was a Kundalini awakening for yourself?
I didn't know anything about any of this stuff. And I was asleep. And all of a sudden, my body got jerked up to a upright sitting position like I am right now in this chair, and my head kind of went back, and then these surges of energy went through my head all the way down to the end of my trunk of my body, and then went straight back up, and then my body fell back down, and then it pulled me back up, and it did that 3 times. and it scared me. I didn't know what it was. I wasn't trying to make anything or whatever. And so then after that, though, I had like a, I don't even know what it was. It was a kind of between a uh, experience with, well, it was an experience, but I ended up in a room with a bunch of humans sitting in a circle, and they were just, I sat down and they were like all looking at me, expecting me to say something. And to be honest, all I could think about was, how do I get home? you know, because I was so confused. I had no idea what was going on. And it was, I didn't even mention it to anybody. And it was like a month later when my son and then that's when he told me the same thing had happened to him, but it happened to him while he was sitting down resting from a hiking trip. So
That's nice that you have your sons to
it
be able to
is.
have those conversations, because as far as
Yeah.
I know, my dad's one of 17 kids. Apparently, my grandmother was pregnant every year for 25 years. Very
Oh my
miserable woman,
goodness.
but I kind of understand why now. But she ended up with 17 children.
That's a lot.
Was very highly psychic, like apparently knew at the moment her third eldest son passed away. And sure enough, very sadly, an hour and a half later, as the story my dad would tell me when I was little, he was sort of in the middle end. He was about 12 years old when it happened. That I guess my uncle, who obviously I would never have met, my dad was about 11 or 12 when this
Mhm.
happened. And I guess as the story goes, or how he told me, my grandmother stood up and said her son's name and said he's dead. And it was something like 6:13 p.m., we'll say. And
Yeah.
apparently, as the story went, my grandfather told her to sit down. You're being ridiculous. He'll be home. He's probably just late. Now, this was back in the early 50s, no, probably mid 50s, I guess.
Yeah.
And apparently, my uncle at the time, they used to work on vehicles together, the boys, and I guess they were hot rodding around in them. And my uncle was driving ahead of his best friend, and they were going at a very high speed. And all of a sudden, the door opened. He came out, and his best friend ran over him at 6:13 p.m. So
Oh
the
wow.
police came by about an hour and a half later. So that's how they knew what time this had happened. My whole point of this, I'm getting off track now as I told you that story, but like I said, my dad's mom was very highly psychic. My mother doesn't believe in any of this stuff. That's where I was going. Usually, if I talk long enough, it'll come back. And as far as I know, so, like with 17 children, I some of my aunts had large families too. So I have about 150
Oh my
cousins.
goodness.
And as far as I know, I'm the only one that's out of the spiritual closet, or closet with all this stuff, if you will. Nobody else is talking about it. So I always say it can kind of be a lonely place.
Oh, it was hard for me. I suppressed it. And, I was two failed marriages. That's why I say I had lots of personal struggles. It's not been easy for me. You know, Nobody wanted to hear this. I grew up in the South, in the Bible Belt, and these were things were considered demonic or either putting people in a straitjacket in a crazy home. So
Mhm.
it's hard, but I am thankful that my son has me and I have him now. And we just have these really wonderful, deep conversations like you and I are having, which, that's why I think it's so important with all this stuff happening and the fact that more people are going to start to remember things and wake up. We need to be ready, and things need to be set up in the mental health field and with doctors and people, or places set up for people to gather and meet up to discuss these things. And that's why it's so important that you're doing what you do, because at least people can come in here and chat in the room and they can hear other people like us talk about these things, because, not everybody can step up and talk about these things because
Like you said, you can't talk about it while you're in line or on queue for people over on the other side of the pond, at the
yeah,
grocery store. And what I always find happens, right? You might be in a group of people, maybe all having a beverage or two, right? People
yeah,
are loosening up, and all of a sudden somebody mentions a little tiny thing. And I call it the paranormal, because it is. It's not with what people think is their norm, right? Then
right.
another person speaks up, and then another person speaks up. And before you know it, 90% of the people in the group have all had what we would call weird,
Oh,
unexplainable things happening. So it's
yeah.
not that unusual, but we
No.
all worry that people are going to think we're crazy because there are people here. Like I'm almost seeing this division. And I think right now we are in a time of disclosure, but especially with the human race. I really believe that truth will always prevail.
I
Light
think so
always
too.
triumphs over dark because we are seeing so much stuff being disclosed. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Some people say, I think our whole world is changing. We are changing. We are becoming better human beings. Not everybody at the same level, but I can see people changing all the time and having better ways of thinking and better, enjoying their life more and just finding out more information. I think this has really got people in tune with paying attention to our world rather than just keeping stuck down in our phones. So I think people are looking more to the skies and looking for more things because scientists are coming out all the time that plants and trees and insects all are living conscious beings.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
even our air and our water, everything is alive and we are all connected to it. And our science is putting information out and people are becoming more and more aware of these things. And I think it's beautiful.
Well, I
It's
think we have to
beautiful.
we have to be careful with what words we use because we're on YouTube. But I'll say over the last 4 years, I think that very much elevated or quickened, if you will, people's curiosity, if you will, about holy cow, everything that I thought was the norm or regular is not the norm, and people are starting. I know even within my own practice, and there's a few people. Hi, Julie Jean Bassett. She's dropped in here. She says hi to everybody, you and I, and everybody here. Is that people like at least when people come for energy healing or from spirit or the collective, if you will, and I always say I'm just the male person, right? It just channeling through myself. But where I'm going with this is people are starting to ask questions now because, for example, like you and I'm going to be 59 in August, so we're up the same genre, age group. And where I'm going with this is, I can remember, as I'm sure you probably could, your parents, at nighttime, everybody watched the evening news and everybody read the papers. And people now are starting to realize that, holy cow, it's not what I thought it was. And they need to start looking and researching things for themselves. Don't get me wrong. I've met a lot of people who will say, I don't have time for it. I'll just do whatever. But I'm almost seeing almost like a division, right? Some people
Yeah.
are going to still stay here, if you will. They're not going to go to that higher elevated ascension. Is that what you have found with your connections?
Yes. But I think at some point they're going to realize that the rest of the world is simply moving ahead of them. And they're going to have to get on the bandwagon too, because as we become more positive and start changing our ways and living differently, we are going to walk away from some of these negative aspects. We're just not going to have time for it. Like we'll choose to spend more time with our family over watching negativity news, because that's all programming. So our choices will be better and they'll realize that they're getting left out and they'll want to start to change at this point. They'll realize maybe I'm not looking at these things in the right way. And
Mhm.
so that's why I think eventually it will get to all of humanity,
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
but not all at the same time. So,
That's a
we,
good
we
way
push
to put it. Now, I'm dying to ask you about this because I always do some research with my guests, obviously. And
yes,
I saw that you were talking about different types of grays and aliens. I
yes,
would love to hear whatever you want to share from your
sure.
connections with the interdimensionals and
Mhm.
extraterrestrials, as I'm sure everybody else will hear too.
Yeah. There are so many different races of grays.
Mhm.
They have been stereotyped as being bad. And I always try to explain it from an extraterrestrial's perspective on what people think is bad. and I always try to explain it, but I understand the fears and things like that because I've experienced it firsthand. I know what that's like, and it's real. It's real.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there's over 60 different kinds of grays, and they
Mm-hmm.
are different colors and different heights, and they have different facial. They look different in their facial features, and they are biological. They are not robotic. They tend to get labeled as robotic because they are task oriented. There is no negotiating with them. They don't put up with any shenanigans or anything. And that's why a lot of people do have missing time and stuff, because they're telepathic. And if they feel your fear, they feel your anxiety, everything you feel, they feel it tenfold. They feel it 10 times. In their reality, they don't have these emotions. They don't know what to do when they feel this. So that's why they'll simply tap a human out and put you in a trance-like state where you're fully functional and you go through the whole experience. But this is where people have the missing time and people have fragmented memories. And the problem with it is that once we realize we're back and that something happened, our brain tries to fill in this missing time or, these fragmented memories. And the last thing the brain remembers is the fear. And then that fear leads into all kinds of different things. And so unless they go and get some kind of regression or something, they probably won't really know what all happened, because the subconscious mind knows everything.
Yeah.
So, and I think some people are better at getting to that level when they're being regressed, and some people simply can't. And I don't know why that is. Like I said, I don't know everything, but I know
I
that.
almost feel like they put walls up around it, but depending on the experience. But what I wanted to ask you is why are we having these interactions? And it seems to run within families, and not everybody has these experiences. So have they explained to you why they do and what goes on?
Yeah. Just like I was an interdimensional and I made an agreement before I came to Earth. All of us made soul contracts before we came to Earth. They erase our memory as we go into, when we, become in our human form. These things are erased. At least, I don't know. Some people can remember things I've heard up until about 3, but I don't know that for a fact. But anyway,
I agree.
So we have agreements that we have made one way or another. So everybody that has had an experience with an extraterrestrial in some way has made an agreement with them, whether it is just if they're a soul body, it's a part of their agreement of their soul experience on Earth. If they're interplanetary soul, they're here for a reason, like I'm here for a reason. And, there's something I'm here to do. If they're from the angelic realm, they're here for some particular reason. And this is also why they cannot come down here and fix all our problems for us, because we are here on contracts. They cannot overstep that boundary. There's limitations to what they can do. So, but if we are working on ourselves to pull us out of this 3D realm and get ourselves up into a higher dimension, which dimensions are not physical places, it's higher levels of consciousness. If we can get to that level, they can assist us more, because they have no intention of taking control, manipulating, because they have watched us. This has been going on. We've been manipulated for way back. It goes way back, all the way back to different languages being made to keep humanity separated, different religions to keep humanity separated, and in like causing friction among us, keeping us apart, because they know once we realize all these things and we all come together in unity, we are unstoppable. They can't do anything but we'll be in charge, because we've never had our freedom, really. We've never had our freedom.
No, we think we do, but we don't. But what I've discovered with working, if you will, from the spiritual side or across the veil, is what I get from extraterrestrial races, if you will, is they all say to us, "You're a young race." That's right. Like,
Absolutely.
so we're
Mhm.
almost in that, and they never use these words. I am almost at that, just a little bit past toddler, getting into that preschool age, but I also understand that the depth and breadth of our emotions confounds some because, like you've explained, right? They're
Yeah,
so sensitive that if they pick up on fear or they pick up on whatever, it's
mhm.
tenfold at least for them. So I definitely understand that about that, and I understand what, like I always say on this show, all of us are here for a reason because a lot
Oh,
of
yeah,
people.
we chose to be here.
No, but they'll say, "Why am I here?" or "What's my life purpose?" And I usually never say to somebody, "This is what your life purpose is." I shouldn't say usually, I don't, because it's not my
Yeah,
job to tell somebody what their life purpose is when I'm working with them. I'll work with you to help you maybe discover it for yourself, but it's almost like it's a gift. The way it's shown to me, I'm really visual, but it's like a gift within yourself,
it
and
is.
you got to
Mhm.
go kind of on a treasure hunt of self discovery to unwrap it and
Mhm.
see why you're here, because you shared, a little bit about your purpose. I've always said this too. I think part of my purpose is to remind humanity of who you really are, because you have no idea how
Yeah,
powerful and incredible we are as a being, not coming from an ego sense, but the gifts and the abilities and the things that we possess that we've been led to believe isn't possible. Would you
yeah.
agree?
Well, yeah, we have parts
Mhm.
of our DNA that has never even been activated,
Mhm.
and we have the ability to heal ourselves, but we have to be in the right frame of thinking in the right way, because it has to be in a positive. We have to learn to be more positive, not only in our thinking, but in the way we live. And with that being positive, you'll see less disease, less sickness. All sickness and disease stems around being stressed out, anxiety. But this realm, we're not doing it on purpose. It's the 3D world that we live in. You
I
know.
I use this book all the time, The Secret
Mhm.
Language of Your Body. And what
Yes.
people have never been led to believe or understand exactly what you have said, how powerful our thoughts, our words, and
Yes.
our emotions are. And that's exactly what can lead to, never mind
Yeah.
that like attracts like energy on this planet. You'll hear in the spiritual world, you got to raise your vibration. It used to drive me crazy in the beginning, right? Like, what the heck does that mean? But I think you've explained it beautifully,
Yeah. It's
that
raising your frequency.
your
Yeah.
frequency, your
And it
energy,
feels good.
positivity, and then
Mhm.
when you do, because these extraterrestrials, I believe in interdimensionals and anything, if you will, I'll say across the veil for people to try and understand it. They're not across the veil, but for people to understand that, that maybe have never heard this concept before, but they're vibrating it up here,
Yes.
up,
And
high,
it
I'll say, for
feels
people
good.
listening. So we've got to raise our energy to meet kind of in the middle. Would that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. And the way you raise it is, what I do is, if I have a negative thought, which all humans do, we've been programmed to think that way, replace it with two positive thoughts and keep practicing it. Work with yourself. Once you get to where you automatically start thinking positive, then work with your children or your grandchildren or your sons or daughters, and then it will spread, and and everybody around you will start to pick up on it, because it really feels good. It's just like, have you ever heard how runners run so much and they get that adrenaline rush they really love?
The
It's about that.
endorphins.
When you reach higher frequency, it feels good, and you want to be like that state, in that state all the time.
But do you find, like, I've had people say this to me, mostly privately, but they always say, "You're always so positive." Well, no, because, when people see you doing this, and I sound like I'm being egotistical, and I don't mean that. But where I'm going from, right? People just see a quick snapshot of when you're doing a show or you're doing something, right?
Yeah.
And I always say, I don't live in the clouds with rainbows and unicorn poop.
Nobody does.
And I have the same problems as everybody else, right? But
Yeah.
I even have a video. I don't have a big YouTube channel, mostly a backup for the shows, but where I'm going with this, I have a video on there that says why gratitude and positivity are a choice, because they are. And I love what you said, catch your, because people don't realize the thoughts even that we say to
Yeah.
ourselves, like when we make a mistake or something, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Replace those thoughts. And it's normal to have these thoughts. There's nothing wrong with it. And it's not something that, I mean, we've been programmed from the minute we were born. We are programmed and we have to fight the program. And it's just something we'll have to work on. And we have to work on it within ourselves first, then worry about other people. And then it will become more natural to us and it feels wonderful. It's amazing. And it does spread to people around you. And that doesn't mean doesn't mean bad things don't happen, but it's our behavior will change. We won't react and be controlled by the incident. We'll be able to either see the beauty or the positive, or we'll understand it's something that we have to experience and we're going to get through it
Or
with
the lesson and wisdom. Okay, for example, I lost my house leaving that house. That was the experience. I think I had this experience. I always say I wouldn't wish it on a blade of grass, paranormal experience, even though I'm no better than a blade of grass because we are all connected like we've been talking. But you know what? I think it had to happen.
Yeah.
Be on the path
Yeah.
that I'm on, because heck, before I hurt my back as a nurse, I was planning on going to medical school and everything else. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now had I not gone through it, right?
Yeah. That's the way you have to understand and look back on your life and look back even on a lot of things that's happened in prior history. These things had to happen to make us who we are today. And it's what this new knowledge, it's what we do from here on out.
But embrace it too, because
Yes.
I'm sure you've met people too that'll say, I wish I had a time machine and I could go back and I could change this and change this and change this. And I say, you know what, that might be a nice thing, but think about where you are in your life right now.
Yeah.
Maybe you do have people, you got people in your life that you love, or maybe there's children or whoever it is. You change one little thing,
Yeah.
all
No,
these
yeah.
people, you're not going to be where you
Yeah.
are. So you got to embrace it
It's
all,
better
right?
to appreciate the things that you do have. The past is the past, and it made you who you are. And who we are is the most beautiful thing. It's the decisions we keep making and the choices that we make is where we'll see the difference in our soul. That's our soul coming out. And we're going to learn to look within more, find our soul self, because that's who we truly are anyway. And that will make us more happier than anything. So I meditate to my subconscious and ask my subconscious to help my human consciousness come forth. I'm not scared to know anything that it's protected me from. Come forth and help me, and it works. It really does. That's why, like you said, we have so much protection on it's very unique. We just don't even understand how wonderful and beautiful and unique we are. And we're going to understand this as we get further along in our ascension. Everybody's gonna start realizing these things, and it's gonna be beautiful. And that's why I like to say, humanity, all of us, we chose to be here. Every single one of us chose to be here. We knew before we came here, this was an evolutionary pivotal point for the creation of man. This is the big event, and we are all a part of it. And we are the disclosure. In my opinion, it's not the extraterrestrials. It's not the interdimensionals. It's not the government. It is humanity figuring out who we are, who are our true origins, what our capabilities are, our place on this planet Earth, and our place in the cosmic realm, because we're connected to all of it. And that is the beautiful thing. And that's why I think we are the disclosure. Every single one of us human beings. We are the disclosure.
Well, I think though too, right? Like I believe AT, to shorten it, has been around long before we
Oh,
ever
yeah,
were. They
yeah,
are here. But what about, because we live in a duality on this planet. Now, I can't speak for the rest of the universe because I don't have memory of where I've been or who I've been or what. But my point is there negative ET
no,
working with the government? Because, right, there is no reason why we shouldn't have disclosure. There really
exactly.
isn't.
Yeah. Well, you have to understand, here's what, from a perspective of, for one, our country, not our country, but there is a war on our planet.
Mhm.
Our country, our United States is considered the peacekeeper, so to speak. And a lot of nations and people look up to us to make these decisions. You have to understand what we're dealing here with is beyond any physics that we have, any concept or any, there is no humanizing anything about extraterrestrials or interdimensionals. We cannot fly their craft because their craft are living conscious beings. We'll never be able to fly them. They are alive, and their pilots are created in their DNA before they're even born. They are designed to be a pilot, male or female. Only they can fly that plane. They are bonded with it. And when they get in, their consciousness meets up with the craft, and they simply think where they want to go, and bam, they go. There is no,
That's kind of how we are in
no,
spirit, though, really, if you think about it, though, right? Because the way I'll
it's higher
explain it,
consciousness.
yeah,
Yeah.
so you don't believe that there may come a time that human beings will be
Yes, well,
evolved
because
enough?
yes, they're a billion years ahead of us in evolution. We are the babies, but that's where we're heading. And as they showed me in visions, as we evolve and get further up the scale, negativity, warlike ways, all these things will diminish because we'll understand it does not serve us anymore.
Mm.
It does not benefit us in any way. And we have been trapped in this 3D realm, which is a realm of war and negativity. But we are leaving that, and we're going to change. And it won't happen overnight. It can't happen overnight because it would be too overwhelming for our brains. It has to be done in a slow, beautiful process. And we have to be patient and let evolution do its job. And that's because they're keeping in mind this is not just for a few, this is all of humanity. And that's what the creator and what interdimensionals and extraterrestrials want. They want all of us, not just certain ones.
But do
They
you
love
think that they're kind of helping it with, because now I
oh sure.
understand that where I'm going with this, though, is, with everybody having a camera now or a phone, we are seeing so many different types of sites. Now, I understand not all of it is extraterrestrial or interdimensional, that some of this is coming from the powers that be that
Yeah.
this planet. But my point is, like, we are seeing more and more and more crafts and different types of crafts and all kinds of things. People are capturing different types of grays, if you will, on camera. Like, what is that all about from your contact? What have you figured out with that, or what
Well,
have you shared?
they are not hiding from us.
Okay.
We are in a 3D world. We use our five senses to understand our world around us.
Mhm.
They are in a realm that is in a realm that we simply cannot visually see. So they pop in back and forth through so that we can. But
Okay.
that's the beautiful thing, is that we are evolving and we're going to see it more and more and more, because they are not hiding, and they're everywhere in our skies and everywhere in our solar system. We just can't see it. And just as they explained to me, plants are living conscious beings. They are communicating and talking.
Mhm.
We just can't see it. And they've proved to me they can be in the room with me. They can be invisible, but they could be in the room with me. But they've
Mhm.
taken a clock that was sitting in front of me that runs on a battery, and they would run it around to 4 o'clock.
Mhm.
And then when I would look at it, then it would stop. And then they would do it again. So
Mhm.
they wanted me to understand there's life all around us. We just can't see it. There's life everywhere. Just because we can't see something doesn't mean it's not there.
I say that all the time, or just because I haven't experienced it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So it's just a waking up process, and it's not that hard to understand or
That
figure
kind
out.
of explains so things like Bigfoot and things like that, right? They're maybe more evolved of a type of species, and because I believe they're interdimensional, or that they're capable of showing themselves at times, yet not.
They're dimensional. I've seen Bigfoot.
Oh, let's talk about. I have so. I'm probably gonna have you back on, Nancy, because I
Yes.
got so.
And I've seen ghosts too. I saw a Confederate soldier ghost, but Bigfoot I saw in Tennessee when I was in high school. I was canoeing with my father and my
Mhm.
sister, and I was in the front of the canoe. My sister was in the middle, my dad was in the back. And all of a sudden, we smelled like this really, really horrific dog smell, but it was so loud. It was like wet dog. And my dad said, be extremely quiet, be extremely still, and take your paddles and put on the inside of the boat. We're just going to float, let the current take us. And he was whispering. And as we got closer, the smell got more intense. And as we come around a bend on the water, and it was about, just before, we'll say dusk, right before it starts to get dark, we were about to end our canoe trip. And we come around and Bigfoot sees us in the canoe, and it was in the middle of the water, and it starts flapping around. It was a river, and starts flapping around, making unbelievable splashes and stuff. So when that happened, we could not tell whether it was male or female, or
Mhm.
it was making such splashes and stuff, but we could see and smell that it was Bigfoot. There was no question, but
Mhm.
we just couldn't make out male or female. But we apparently caught it. It was either bathing or fishing,
Uh,
whatever. Yeah.
well,
So
I told you before we went live, and where I live in Thunder Bay, so I'm about 6.5 hours north of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I'm about 35, 40 minutes away from the Minnesota border, but we're right on the shores of Lake Superior. And
yeah.
Lake Superior almost has like a so many Bermuda Triangle in the middle of it. It could be 100 degrees. We were talking about how hot it is where you are in
Yeah.
Mississippi. And the water, you can't stay in Lake Superior. If you're in the middle of the water, like you'd get hypothermia even on the
Wow. I've heard that.
hottest
Yeah.
day. But also, we have such a strong First Nations history around here. Because I was telling you, and I've shown them a couple times on the two different shows, I've caught some interesting lights in the sky,
Yeah.
Bigfoot. We've had people with dogmen encounters. You were talking about the Confederate soldier. Girl, you should see some of the pictures and recordings from that home I was in.
I bet.
That I have seen, and my partner too, not at the same time. I was outside one night and I was talking to a friend that lived in California, and you know how girls get chatting on video.
Yeah.
And she said, my hair wasn't purple then, it was a different color. But she goes, I just love your hair color. What is that? I said, well, hang on. I just did it like yesterday night. So I'll go outside. The garbage cans in my old house were right outside the door. Now we're 3 hours apart. So it was about 2 a.m. So I go out the front door and I go down the steps and I'm about to grab the box. And I hear my friend say, Lorilei, get back in the house. Get back in the house. Get back in the house. I go, why? And as I'm looking across the streets, I'm getting goosebumps as I'm telling you. It was about 10 to 12 feet away. I seen the most magnificent, incredible white, silvery wolf. But this wolf was the size of probably, we're talking a city bus. I'm not
Oh,
kidding.
wow.
But he was kind of glowing and he was walking very slowly. And he stopped and he turned to look at me and had the most incredible aqua blue eyes. And he's still walking. And my friend is screaming at me, like, get in the house, get in the house. Can you not hear that? I go, no, you got to see this. And I turn the phone around. She can't see what I'm seeing. So I'm watching it. It gets to the corner and it crosses a little side street. And as it walks past the telephone pole, it disappears. Now, this
Yeah.
probably 5-10 seconds. So I finally listened to her. I go, fine, I'll go back in the house. Like, what are you going on about? She goes, you didn't hear all that growling? And I said, no. But the weird thing was my oldest son was still awake, and he was in his bedroom, had no clue what I was doing, who I was talking to. And he says, Mom, what was all that growling and snarling outside?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't hear it. And my partner at another time saw a black one like that on our side of the street, bright red, fiery eyes.
Wow.
And where they came from.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So whenever I come back, I'll have to tell you I was on a spacecraft and they were a group of explorers and they were looking for cryptids, or at the time I didn't know the word cryptid, but they used the word creatures. They were looking for creatures that had jumped timelines.
Oh, I love talking about timelines and time dimensions.
Yeah.
And
they were creating habit, and their job was to go and get the creature, contain it, and then take it back to where they belong, to the proper dimension. Yeah, because they love to explore, come down to Earth and explore, and they're very fascinated with Earth. And they get the opportunity, they pop down here. But
is that where you think dogmen have come from? Because I
yes.
know that we had a race here thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
But all of a sudden, it seems like dogmen have, like, don't get me wrong, you'd hear a story here and there, but like nowadays, or the big thing is skinwalkers. Everybody, Skinwalker Ranch, talking about skinwalkers. I'm hunting skinwalkers. So what have they shared with you about that? I'm still fascinated by the hunters that come get
these things are real, and they love to come over into our dimension, and they find like different vortexes or portals where they can do this. And I know like even Bigfoot is the same way. And if a lot of times, if they're here and not disturbing humanity or anything, if they're not doing anything wrong, they'll leave them alone. But if they do something that they're not supposed to be doing,
go
then the extraterrestrials will go and interdimensionals, they'll send a team out to get them, but that's why they
go ahead.
That's why Bigfoot doesn't want to be around humans, but they don't want to really interact. Some of them will, but they're very, very cautious about these things because they like being here, and the only way that they can stay here is by, being good behavior and not creating any havoc. So,
well, it's the same thing though. I have an adult son with severe autism, but he can read, and write and use a computer.
Mm-hmm.
He's terrified of Nibiru. He found that on his own, so I don't bring it up unless he brings it up, but we don't say the word because he asks questions, and I'm glad he's limited verbally, but he can still tell me these type of things. But right now he's been so terrified, and we'll be careful with being on YouTube, but about the planet no longer being here because of humanity's silliness, we'll say, with toys we shouldn't be playing with. How about that?
Absolutely. So yeah.
I always say to him, I always tell him there's the Van Allen belt that makes him feel safe. And NASA, again, that's a whole different story. It just makes him
you should tell him that the extraterrestrials in interdimensional.
That's where it was going. That's my next
not
thing.
Let this ever happen because
they're not going to let that happen.
No, they're not.
We're smack dab in the middle of the universe. You can see that.
It would affect too many things,
It affects the whole planet. So that gives them a lot of.
Because there's so many indigenous and innocent people like your son, and they take that in consideration. It's not fair, and just because these two countries and two presidents can't get their act together, the rest of the world will not need to suffer from it. They would let a small mishap happen if that's what it took to wake humanity up, but I've never seen any visions or indications from them that will ever happen. But I do know it depends.
There's documentation, if you look for it, that they have shut down nuclear.
Oh, they have, yeah.
And then there was that incident in Hawaii,
a
couple years back, and now you hear a couple different stories, but I truly believe there was extraterrestrial intervention along with, if you will, the U.S. I heard that stopped what was imminent and coming.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've seen stuff like that, and and I also have seen like when they realized that we were waking up That's when the interdimensionals and extraterrestrials and of all races came here in huge motherships in great numbers. And when they did, any of them that had been working with the government, not that I'm not saying they were doing anything wrong, but I do not know everything and I don't pretend to, but anything, everything was, they were told to stop and no longer work with anybody,
Mhm.
So
What about the Intergalactic Council? Because I know there is one. I'm pretty sure there is one. Have they given you any information about that you can
I
speak?
have been before a group of what they call elders, and they were interdimensionals. Interdimensionals are of higher consciousness, and they are what we would call back in biblical days the shiny ones. They are luminescent and real shiny, and how they explained it to me is that if they took you and I and teleported us back to biblical days, and you and I go walk up in front of these people, we would be the shiny ones to them because we are of higher consciousness and a higher frequency. So that's how they would see us. And that is how we on earth will see them, as the shiny ones. But they will tell you quickly they are not gods and they are not angels. They are just simply a billion years ahead of us in evolution and on a higher frequency and a higher level of consciousness. So it's all, everything is about vibrational frequency, consciousness. And let me give you another example. This is a good one. These are things that they told me. All right, you and I are sitting here. Our conversation we are having is through laptops, which is our technology. And our technology is a separate entity from us. It's something that we pick up and carry around. In their reality, their consciousness is, it's their technology, and they are not robotic. They have not been brain chipped like
You're
what
reading
Elon.
my mind all night tonight because I was going to ask you to explain what you mean by interdimensionals. I was just thinking about where certain people, such as Elon Musk, think this is the way to access exactly what you're talking
We're
about.
never going to be like the Borg. None of them are like that. People try to humanize all these things or use what's been used in movies and stuff, but that stuff is not in their reality. And I'm going to be honest with you, they don't go by names. Like you hear people write.
I'm laughing because I've always said that. Like, I don't care about a name. We know each
You
other.
know how people write
Energy.
these books and all these things, and they'll say they talked to so and so. So no, in their reality, their frequency is their signature. That is who they are. And
Yeah.
when I communicate, if I'm here in my house and they want to wake me up or whatever, I've heard my name very few times. But when I'm in their reality, when I'm on crap with them, there is no name exchange. They are telepathic. There is no, humans are the only ones that need to label things and name things. Even when I ask them, where are you from? They say, if I came up with a name, you wouldn't be able to understand it, and you would never be able to see it because it's not within your visual range.
Mhm.
So there is no names, there is no
Yeah.
labeling of things because that's not what their reality is. Now, maybe these lower frequency extraterrestrials may have tried to appease a person that they were visiting and gave them a name, but that's not what they do in their reality. So I hate to say that everybody's lying, but I know for a fact that they do. Their frequency is that's their signature. That's who they
I've
are.
said this for years because don't get me wrong, when I rediscovered my abilities years ago, when I felt the
Mhm.
curiosity and the pull, sure, I asked the same questions like, what's the name of my guides? What's the name of my angels? What's the name of this? What's the name of that? But then as I connected and I think I channel quite a bit and had these type of experiences, especially I don't sleep a lot, but when I do. But my whole point that's been shown to me is exactly what you just said. Now,
Well,
they recognize as human beings, just as we would if we were looking after little ones, because we are the little ones. I'm sorry,
yeah,
people
we
out
are.
there.
Yeah,
We're going to humor a little one,
yeah,
right? If we're building a
yeah,
relationship. So they recognize that we need names as humans. We need to name it. I know you get all this, but for people listening, right? So
yeah.
that's why I've always said I don't really care if I'm connecting with something on the other side. Don't get me wrong, but you can
They're not
tell.
here to impress anybody. There is no such thing as ego.
No,
They have
no, but where I
evolved
met with
way past
frequency.
that.
No, I was going to say, but that's how I know them, by energy
Yeah,
or
yeah.
frequency. So I got a question for you then. Where do you think, because we had some pretty dark, evil things. I had a dream about 16, 17 years ago that started that paranormal experience that I had, and it named itself a demon. Now I'm still not 100% convinced, but it gave me a name I'd never heard of before. It spelt it for me, and I couldn't find it at the time in the research, and I was helping somebody else about 5 or 6 years later, and I was forced to go to church, go to Roman Catholic school the whole bit. Don't get me wrong, I don't know the Bible well. But the thing is, when I looked, I could not find this name. I'd never heard it before. Lo and behold, about 5 or 6 years later, there was a name, everything I had been told about it, exactly the way it was spelled, exactly everything I've been told in this
Mhm.
dream, I found on paper. So, where do you think things that people might call a demon or lower vibrational energy beings,
It
where do
can
you,
only, those things can only manifest in this realm.
I
They
figure?
cannot manifest in higher dimensions.
No, because
And
like attracts like energy. They'd never be able to exist.
right. And that's
There's
what
lower
we,
astral
yeah,
realms, though,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. But I don't I've told you I don't know everything. And that's one thing that I really don't look
And
into.
that's okay. That's okay. I wanted
Yeah.
to, you know where I go with this? Like you told you, it was a conversation. I'm just going to ask you.
Oh,
And
yeah,
you
that's
know,
that's
I
the kind
love
of
that you say
conversations I
no.
love. Yeah. But I do know from what they tell me, there is no hell.
There is.
So,
That
so,
took me a while to wrap my brain around it. And I'm
mhm.
not saying it
So
was
that
meant
what
this
they're
way.
asking though is that if there is no hell, where are these coming from? And a lot of psychologists and stuff will say it stems from karmatic traumas in our past. And this is our experience is trying to close the door on some of these things.
I don't know. My partner was thrown
Yeah, so I
15.
don't know everything about that kind of
No,
stuff.
no, no. But where I'm going
Yeah.
with it is I really believe in tulpas and things. So, right? Like, let's
Mhm.
take Slender Man, for example. Slender Man was from a creepy pasta story 15,
Mhm.
20 years ago. Now people are catching it on camera. They're, whatever. And I know we have to be careful with the technology that's out there. My whole point is
Yeah.
everything is energy, vibration, and frequency.
It's
Enough people focus on it, it can take form, I believe.
yeah.
Hmm.
There's
So
a saying we create our own reality. So if we're
a lot of
in
people don't want to hear that, though.
I know they don't. And that's why it's really hard for me because a lot of what I know, I don't know how much the world is ready to it has to be done in a slow way. So I have and I think that's I even different times they give me more information. They're not going to overload me at once. I would freak out
But
because
it's
I'm
kind of where I call collectively spirit. Like, for example, I work with two very close friends for many years now, and we connect with, they they say they give, one of them was a famous scientist, the other one was part of the actor world, if you will,
mhm,
and they connect with us, especially the scientists. And we've always, in the beginning, we kept saying, why us? We're nobody. Well, it's not that we're nobody. There's hundreds of thousands of people doing this vibrational work around the world. And they will share things with us. Sometimes he will ask us to do things, maybe meditate at the same time. There's actually four of us, and we're from four different countries around the globe. We were connected by this person. It could be ET for all we know, but feeling into it, and we are all part of this, either a psychic, medium, channel, or whatever it may
well,
be.
there's
Um,
different frequencies out there And it's just like somehow it gets attracted to certain people. So we have to be, that's why I guess we're supposed to be more positive and try to get out of this.
But that's where I was going with this is like we could, what I meant is coming from 4 different backgrounds, all working, trying to raise a vibration and work within the spiritual field. Again, not trying for anybody to hear that we think we're better than anyone. That's not where I'm going with this. Because it's a choice and we all have this ability. But what I meant is they've never led us astray. Like, you know what I mean? Or they'll let us know sometimes we get little bits and pieces, kind of like it sounds a little bit like what you're connecting with. They meet you where you're at. And sometimes we've been asked to meditate and focus on positivity and love. So we do it. It's not going to hurt, right? It's
no. It's going to move us up into a higher frequency where it is of more pure.
Where I was going to go with this, though, it could be ET for all we know. We like really, we're not seeing a physical body, you know, showing up.
But I personally don't think, because they are much higher frequency and they have been past all these negative realms, and that's what they're trying to get us out of. But I do know that in the spirit world, they can even pretend to be ET. They can pretend to be just about anything. And I've heard if they're very mischievous human being in the spirit realm, they'll be just as mischievous. And if they were evil,
sometimes worse.
If they were evil in their human form, they're evil in their spirit realm. So I think that's really where that kind of stuff goes.
Where I was going with it is, though, right, is we've never been led astray. And the fact is, there's 4 of us, and not afraid to speak up. If one person said, hey, this doesn't feel right, I don't think it's a good idea, we're gonna talk about it. But where I meant is, like, sometimes they'll let us know little bits and pieces of what's coming, or how to change it. Like, because, for example, we've even worked together to, and it's not just us. It's not like we're, for people listening, we don't think like, oh my God, we're all powerful. The 4 of us did this. No, there's hundreds of thousands of people around the world that focus on this or are trying to raise the energy, vibration, and frequency. But when a storm is coming, for example, and it's going to hurt a lot of people, enough of us focus, right? Eventually we have those abilities. And
yes, I believe so. It's just like, that's what they're waiting for, is for us to get the majority of our frequencies up, and that will change and manifest our world to a better place. So
can you call them whenever you want, or do they
I don't do anything like that, because they are my family. I'm not here to impress. They're not here to impress. If they want me to do something,
that's where I was going with it. That was the other part of the question.
And it would be because they asked me to do something. It would never be because I'm trying to show off. That's ego. I'm not going to.
No. I think you misunderstood me. No, I didn't hear the last part of my question. Is where I was going with that is, when and how do you connect? So it sounds like they connect with you.
I talk to them. I call them.
That's what I was trying to ask you. So you call them.
I don't want people to think that
you misunderstood me. So that's where I was going. How do you guys
do it? I do it, but I don't do that. I would never do that. I do this. I talk to them all the time before.
They're your family, right? So I get it. So that's where I was going with this, because people are going to hear this and go, okay, so how does this work? Like, how do you guys connect? How do you communicate? What are the messages?
I just don't want to get.
Have anything that they wanted you to share today?
Before I come on a podcast, I ask them to come be with me. I ask them to give me.
I love it.
Help me with the right things to say and to make me relatable to all people, because this is not something I'm doing to make money. I make no money doing this. And at some point I may write a book, but it won't be to make money. I would want my grandchildren to know that I'm a humanitarian and this is a mission. And hopefully if I'm not alive to get all this done, some of them will follow in my footsteps. So
it kind of sounds that way, though. Like I say, I love
it. It is. My sons or my oldest one. Yeah, he's get really into it. And he's the one that's got me set up with all these things to do this, and has paid for it. So, I'm very fortunate and very lucky to have him to talk to and to help me, because this is just as important to him as it is to me. They are our family. They are our family. And that's where my two sons come from, is from the interdimensional. So
So what
this
I
is
want
like
to ask
a mission. Yeah.
if they're with you and if it's
Mhm.
okay, and I believe you that they're with you, and I think that's
Mhm.
beautiful, because I kind of got that feeling like they had
Yeah.
a message that they were hoping that we could share to those that would be open to hear it. So is
Yeah.
there
And I
anything
would
they
say
want?
what I do is I meditate with intention
Mhm.
and directly to them, and I tell them what I want. I tell them what I need. I ask for, guidance. And if somebody wants to try to have communication or whatever, I would say they would probably listen, and they will come, and they would probably come in your dream state first, because they're going to see, how are you really ready?
Mhm.
What is your fear level? What is your spiritual level? What is your evolutionary level? Because some people might say they want them to come, but when it gets down to it, because for me, it is not what they look like. That's not what the fear stems from. It is the frequency exchange between a interdimensional or an extraterrestrial and a human being. When they're right here with you, and we're at a level that we don't feel another human being's frequency because we're so used to it and it's like ours, but they are at a much higher frequency. We feel it. And it's a feeling that, oh my gosh, I don't even know what to. The closest thing I could compare it to is like a heavy, heavy adrenaline rush, or a heavy, heavy spiritual love flow through you. And it's almost euphoric feeling. And your brain cannot comprehend what it is. And, and naturally, because of it being so different, our brain doesn't know if it's good or bad, and we get that fight or flight type
Yeah.
gene activates, like back when we were in the cave days where everything was a predator. So that's what you have to work on, is it's not what they look like. It is the frequency that you feel when you're with them. And it's very, very strong, and it's very, very different. Yeah. And
There's
so
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
it's okay. So when I was little, and they didn't have me all the way at a frequency that they have me now, because I'm
Mhm.
64 years old. I've been doing this a long time.
Mhm.
But when I was little, and they were doing that vibrational thing up and down, they were taking my little human frequency and changing it to match their frequency. And that is how I was able to go up through a ceiling or through a door or through a wall. And when I went through the ceiling, I could see my parents had boxes everywhere, the Christmas ornaments, etc., insulation, all these things. And I never understood, how is this happening? Because anybody, if you told them, they would say, human beings can't do that. But that's how they did it. They changed my
Mhm.
frequency. And I was physically doing these things. It wasn't like out of body or anything like that. It was
I'm glad you
physically,
shared that you physically were doing these things.
yes. Yeah.
Probably
It
your
was not a
age.
dream. It was not, it was like, I mean, I was holding her, and I was like touching her skin to feel her temperature. Because when you're in that situation, you do need validation yourself to know.
Well, probably your age too, though, if you think about
Yeah,
it, right? Like when you had said earlier in the
when I
show,
was
and that I
little,
agree
yeah.
with you about, say, up to the age of 3, that we have memories from where we've come from.
Yes.
And this is a real area of study and fascination for me, besides near death experiences, but children that remember their previous lives. For
Yes.
example, I have a friend, an acquaintance, who had twin granddaughters, and one of them was named after, I think it was her great great grandmother. And they couldn't speak yet. They were about 9 months old. And my friend asked her, "Are you the reincarnation of?" And went through it. And she asked more than once. And the little one would always say,
Yes.
like, yes, because, and then you'll hear children, and I love these stories. I think that's why spirit and animals can see interdimensionally because
Yeah.
they live in the now. They live in a state of joy too, especially children, right? Children's work is play. They
Yeah.
haven't been preconditioned or programmed.
That's
So
the
you,
deal.
although you needed that physical embodiment, when you physically went through, like you said, the attic and the roof, there wasn't enough to question with logic and this is
Exactly.
impossible and what have you, right? So I could see,
Mhm.
I'm glad you shared that that was
Yeah.
physical.
And so when I started becoming afraid, then that's when they would tap me out because I had to go. I had to learn because I came here with a purpose, and there, it was a preparation to make me who I am today, to have the confidence to step out and put my life out there, and regardless of what people say, I don't care. You know, it is what it is, and I am who I am, and all I can do is tell the truth. And a lot of people don't like the truths I say, because I'm not making money off of doing any of this. I'm not selling t-shirts and shirts and all these, you know what I mean? So, and it breaks my heart that I see a lot of people taking this and turning it into something it's not. This is real. This is a worldwide phenomenon, and it affects every human being on this planet. And it's, to me, it's not a joke, and it's not a game, and it's not a commercial business. It's real, and this is what decides our futures.
And when you say it decides our future, hold that thought for a second, because I really believe, though, that the light will always prevail.
I
The
do
truth
too.
will always be revealed, including the people that are meant. Maybe they'll be the first or second or third wave, if you will, right?
Yeah.
With this raising of frequency and vibration,
Yeah.
because yes, I've seen that myself about many people out there and leading people astray. But again, like I said earlier, I really believe we are in a time of disclosure. And I love what you said too about disclosure, right? That we are in a time of disclosure.
I sincerely believe that, and that's what they keep telling me. It is, they have been here. We've never been alone. They've been here all along. It's us that has to wake up. We are discovering our uniqueness and who we are, and we need to look within and get our subconscious to help us, because we are the disclosure. This is what this evolution is all about. They are always been here, and they will always be here. But we are changing. Our world is changing. We are the unique, beautiful things. And this is what it's all about. And we don't remember it, but we knew this was going to happen, and we chose to be here because this is a big deal. This is the biggest thing that's happened since our creation.
Yes, and you keep hearing that, right? Like I know
Mhm.
I've heard it, many people have heard it, right? That this is an exciting time to be alive.
It
Though I
is.
do say sometimes, jokingly, I wish I would have read the fine print. But it is an
Yeah.
exciting
Yeah.
time to be here.
I can't say that I didn't say, why in the world would I do this?
Mhm.
Because there's no way. Maybe I did know what it was going to be like. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I think with free will too, that we do have the
Well,
opportunity
I can tell
to
you
come.
this, though. I'll tell you this. Throughout my life, when I was going through traumatic divorces, fighting over children, all these nasty little things going on, and I thought it was the end of the world. I thought it was. I was traumatized, and I was just like traumatized. And they would come to me, and they would say, "If being here ever gets to be too much, you can always come home." And when they said that, I was like, "No, no, I love my family." You know what I mean? But they have told me that more than one time when I've had really horrible things happen. So, but I think that was more to get me grounded and to remind me I made a choice to be here. Wake up and remember who you really are. This human experience is really just a temporary experience. In their reality, there is no such thing as time. So, really and truly, my son have these deep, deep discussions like, maybe I'm 64 here, and it seems like 64 years is a long time, but there is no time in that reality. Maybe he and I are in a sleep stasis up there, and this is the dream.
It could be. Because
Isn't
even
that something?
when you say talk to a spirit that's earthbound, for example,
Mhm.
um, and I've had this conversation when we've had paranormal panels with different hosts on the shows. We haven't had them in a couple of years, and I miss them because you get people from all different backgrounds. And there have been people that have done paranormal investigations and gone in and using a ghost box has said, well, you're dead. And then you'll hear, oftentimes you may hear back, no, you're the one that's dead.
Yeah, and that's strange. And because we really don't know. We
Mhm.
really don't know. And that's
Mhm.
why nobody knows everything. Nobody is an expert. And,
Nope.
you know, so people got to stop. All these tricks are going to come out.
But you know what? It's kind of the same thing. Some of the stuff we were talking about a little bit earlier, though. I think the people that are meant to hear it, that are going to be open to hear it, are going to hear it. Because
Yeah.
there are a lot of people, and it's interesting. I've been thinking about this. Like I said, it's just a conversation. I don't know where we're going with this. I just
I know,
open
I
it up
love
to
it though.
spirit and say, where are we going with this spirit? Because they know who's going to hear it or hear the replay or what. Is that the people that are meant to hear what's happening, right? And resonate with it
Yeah.
will resonate with it, right? There's others, like, because that's where I was going with this, with fear. When you said you started to have fear, that's when they
Yeah.
would top you out. But think about even the powers that run this planet, supposedly in human form. What's their weapon? Fear.
Here.
Right? And
Yeah.
I've said this has been part of the message I've shared is once we stop being afraid,
Yes.
there's no further control over
That's
us. Right?
right. It's a form of control and manipulation. Absolutely. And see, I've had to learn this the hard way. I had to experience, I'm a hands on. I have to experience. That way I totally understand it. So, but I hope that people waking up, they won't have to go through some of this stuff like I have. And I bet you a lot of people will start having those Kundalini type awakenings too, because I don't know what triggered it other than they did it, but
I've met many a person who's had like a universal download, or maybe they've had a Kundalini awakening, or some people find them quite painful, other people don't. And I think also for you, to me,
it
this
scared
sounds like it
me.
was a very pure and interesting experience. Maybe not when you were going through it, but
No,
after.
it was. I was scared. I didn't know what
Of
it was.
course,
Yeah.
anybody would be, but where I'm going with this is, right, you had it. Other people I know have had universal downloads, so they
Yeah.
literally get all the knowledge almost, or been told by guides or ET or whoever it may be, that everything that was in their subconscious has now been downloaded into their consciousness, and they
Right.
have access to all this information. But the thing is, what people don't realize, because we've never been taught to know this, is our bodies will speak to us. There's no
Yes.
separation. The same thing with, you can call it your higher self, you can call it your subconsciousness, and I
Right.
agree 100% that it knows it all. It
Yeah.
remembers it all. It's a record. But we can talk to that. Meditation is a great way to do that, right?
Yes. Yes. That's how I do it. Yeah. And it works.
I'll
It
say hi
works.
to Nicole Thomas Ryan, and um, Kathy Hanley Little says, I resonate with all that has been said. Fear is a paralyzer. We must overcome fear, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
But
Thank
I
you for
think with
saying that.
the Kundalini awakening for you was the opening of that door, if you will. They've been around you your whole existence
Yeah.
since you've been Nancy. But for
Hmm.
you, it sounds like that really opened up the
Oh,
door.
it was profound. Yeah. It
Mhm.
was. It was like, I guess I needed that validation, because like downloads I would get, I was questioning my own knowledge.
But you
Like
said you needed a physical experience, didn't you? Like
I
you
have
have to
to have them.
experience it. Maybe that's why you had that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just easier for me to understand, and it's kind of like when you walk in the shoes of something, you truly understand it, and I think that's what I needed. You know,
Maybe that's why you were given that physical experience.
it's like she's dumb. Zzz.
No, you're not dumb. It's just for you, maybe that's how it would eventually get past the fear. It's
Well,
whatever
it worked. It scared me to
doorway.
death.
No, but whatever, like you said, you were questioning the downloads. For people that don't understand what you mean by download, I
Yeah.
do. But for people listening, could you share that with people, what that means for you?
Yeah. Like I would get information and answers to things, and then I would say, okay, where did that come from? How did I know that? Because when they send you downloads, it does not have a name attached to it. That's a human thing. It does not have a sound or, whatever. It's just put there in your mind. And then these things. And I was going, all right, where did that come from? And I just was having a problem with it. That it's probably just me. Well, it
Yeah,
was
but do
me,
you
but
think, okay, for example, for myself, one time I had this puppy, she's no longer with us, and she left me a pee-pee accident on the carpet, and it was the most perfect heart I had ever seen. I took a picture. To this day, people don't believe me. But the more I started to notice hearts around me, could be a spill on the coffee counter. One time I got a box of nuggets from a pizza place, perfect heart, and I started taking pictures. The more and more that I noticed it, the more it came into my frequency, and I attached meaning to it. Meaning, for me, that's my team, whoever's on my team, letting me know I'm on the right path, right?
exactly.
But
Yeah.
for me, with a download, because I've attached the meaning that whenever I get ringing in the left ear,
Yeah.
I'm getting a download. So I literally stop unless I'm driving, but if I can pull over, I will. I stop, close my eyes, breathe, and tell myself I'm open to the download. I'm receiving with the knowledge that when it's meant for me to recognize what's been downloaded, it
Yes.
will come. For
Yeah.
you, it was a little different, right? So I
Yeah.
think you work with us as well with what works best for us to accept it and believe it. What do you think?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah. And for my son, he was just out in the woods in nature hiking, and he
Mhm.
sat down and kind of just went up against a tree, and then it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it had to happen with
Think
him.
whatever, like Nicole just said, okay, so that is what a download is. I know things a lot and don't have a clue how I know it. We would
Yes.
also call that clear cognizance. You know things that you don't know why you know them, but you know it
Yeah.
to the depths of your core and it just shows up.
And we have to learn to accept these things. I
Mhm.
was questioning it, but I understand.
Yeah, but that's
And I
human
listen.
nature
Yeah.
against the programming we've had.
Yes.
That
Hmm.
same thing. There is no such thing as a coincidence. But there can be some serendipitous things sometimes happening, but I really believe there's no such thing as a coincidence.
Oh, everything happens for a reason. Absolutely.
Yes, yes. We
Yeah.
are almost out of time, Nancy. I hope
Well,
I can have you back on because I am loving this conversation. We
thank
barely scratched
you.
the
I love
surface.
it too. I was suppressed for so long, and now you can't shut me up.
Yeah, but I'm the same way too, right? Like
Yeah, I like it too. I love it when I have somebody that like-minded. It's just so fun. It is. It's really fun. I
I'm
would love to
really
come back again.
open-minded. I'm really, and as I'm sure you are too, because of our
Yes.
experiences, it's taught us that again, and I think we've both said the words, not word for word, but just
Yeah.
because we haven't seen it, felt it, experienced it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I too learn something new every day and am open to it,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And
It
I think
never ends. The more we know, the more we realize there's more and more out there to learn.
I agree. So
Yeah.
where can people I don't you guys, you'll have to let me know if this wasn't coming through. We don't have most of our usual crew here. So I want to thank everybody that was here in the chat to be able to share share your comments and what I don't know if it's that dang phone of mine or what. I'm gonna have to update it right from when I was
Make
sharing the
sure
link
make
today.
sure that we can have the good link so they can watch it, because people will go watch it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what the interesting thing about our network is I always back it up on my YouTube channel. It's on the UPRN channel, UFO Paranormal United Public Radio. Okay, so it's on there. It's on Facebook, and it is on anywhere where podcasts and talk radio are carried. Like I have found programs from like our network on some of the tiniest, most obscure apps that, like I
Isn't
say,
that
this network
something?
really has been around for 25 plus years.
Yeah.
Like Joe, bless his heart, he loves to talk about the numbers and where we broadcast. So we do have
Oh,
staff.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
That's
in
his
every
job.
country we broadcast potentially. So
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, please spread my name over to any of the other hosts. I'd love to,
okay.
I'd love to do it. I love radio shows, everything. I do like, even though if it's not like live video, I still like whoever I'm talking to. I like to be able to, to see the eyeball them, to be able to,
Yeah.
like we're really having the conversation like you and I have. It's hard to just talk through a
That's how
phone.
I do this show. Like I do a
Yeah.
little bit of research. I don't watch interviews with other people because I love to meet new people and I love to really hear people's stories.
Yeah.
So I have no idea what I'm going to ask you before we come on
I
here.
like
And I
it.
mostly meet people just like I met you.
Mhm.
Either they message me or I have a PR person I work with sometimes over in Wales that sends me great authors. And I want to hear your story. And it's like if our audience, with no disrespect, it's like they're literally like a fly on the wall in the room. Like they get to hear, except they get to interact and ask questions and stuff too.
Yeah, I love it.
Well,
It's
Ruth,
been a lot of fun. Thank you for having me. I've had a really good time.
I'm going to have you back on. I have to, because Ruth just said
Yeah,
this was awesome.
yeah.
Thanks,
So
Lorilei and Nancy.
the website is timefordisclosure.com, and the Facebook group is Time for Disclosure / We Have Never Been Alone / We Are the Disclosure. And I'm talking all
I
of
thought I
humanity.
joined. I don't think I have. If you've said all that, I got to find it because I think I
Yeah.
joined it. Okay.
Yeah, please do. I try. You'll be surprised. I put so many articles in there. You may have to even like, you don't want to get all the notifications because
So
I put like,
do you
boom,
have a
boom, boom.
YouTube? You have a YouTube channel, don't you, or a
Not,
podcast or anything?
not it. What I do is on my website, I'll put all of the podcasts
Oh,
that I do on there. I don't really know how to do a lot of these. I don't have my own podcast. I just do what, like people like
that's
you.
okay.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of this stuff that is new to me, but anyway, I put it on my on the timefordisclosure.com and
Mhm.
on their stuff. So, but
I
anyway, I have
I
loved being here, and
well, I
thanks
loved
to everyone that
having you.
came.
Loved having you. I'm going to have her back on because Kevin Z Sun Dragonson, great show and great guest. So we will have Nancy definitely back on again. I want to let you know next week is Canada's birthday, July the 1st.
Yay!
Now, I know it's July the 4th in the US. You're our brothers and sisters, which you are over there.
Yeah,
Well, everybody's our brothers and sisters across the world. But what
yeah,
I wanted to tell you all is I did have somebody I was supposed to pre-record an interview brand new with them, and they canceled. And so I messaged them. I said, because I have a booking calendar. And I said, oh, did you mean to cancel? I said, well, no, I was going away. So they're not coming back till the end of July. So I'm not sure what's going to happen. There will be a show. So stay tuned. Either I will put on a replay, a really awesome replay from a previous show that maybe a lot of you new people haven't seen, or if we don't go out to camp, if the weather's crappy, it's going to be me hanging out with all of you live. So you're going to have to stay tuned to the Angel Rock and all the social media platforms. So please do so, because
it'll
that's
be a surprise.
It'd be a surprise. More than likely, I'll probably be here because if there was internet out at camp, definitely. But the weather hasn't been that great. So I have a feeling we're going to be back because my partner, Doll, will probably have to go back to work the next day anyway. So we should be here. Jennifer M said this was a great discussion. Thanks for telling your story. So
Thank
Kevin's
you.
going Q&A. Yes, LOL. Yes, we have lots of fun when we do that. So more than
Have
likely, I'll be
fun.
hanging out here with all of you next Monday. But don't forget, you get to hang out with us again on Thursday with my amazing co-host, David Hansel, with the thing at the foot of the bed. So don't forget to, I forgot to mention that, we have a group for the actually for the show. It's called The Thing at the Foot of the Bed with Lorilei Potvin and David Hansel. Now we are well past 100 members. When we get to 200, David and I are going to start going live in it. But you guys can put your questions. If you got pictures, you got anything you got, you want to ask about when it comes to any topic, anything in the paranormal. We also, if we show video clips or photos or whatever, we put them in that group. So you want to join that. It's on Facebook. Also have two groups, Paranormal University for all things paranormal and the Angel Rocker Tribe for more spiritual things. And this topic sometimes goes in both groups. You just depends what we're talking about. So if you ever want to get a hold of me too, I forgot to add that. I am revamping my website. So you can still get a hold of me on facebook.com/Angel Rock, but it lists all the things that I do there with energy healing, and do not charge for the paranormal, because I had people message about that. I never charge to help other people, regardless of what it is, or connect you with people. But say you want to book a reading or an energy healing or whatever that may be, you can get a hold of me that way, or just reach out to me on Messenger on Facebook. It's the fastest, or any other social media platform. It'll be under the Angel Rock or Lorilei Potvin. It's easy to get a hold of me, and I'd love to work with you. So again, Nancy, thank you so
Thank you.
much. She's coming back, you guys, because everybody's going, Kathy Hanley Little, great show. Thank you, Nancy. So we got to have
you, everyone.
All right, you guys, we'll see you all on Thursday, not next Thursday, this Thursday, 7 p.m.
Happy Canada.
Well, thank you. And more than likely, like I said, I'll be hanging out live with you next Monday. I'm pretty sure about it, but just in case, say it gets really hot and it's a beautiful day. You never know, I might go out to the lake, but more than likely it'll be me. All right, you guys, we'll see you Thursday. Thanks again, Nancy.
Bye-bye.